Okay, so we're going to be talking about scientific notation. Let's go ahead and look at the first one. It says the area of a piece of land is 4,951,000 square meters. How is the number of square meters written in scientific notation? Okay, remember with scientific notation, our base number or that first number has to be between 1 and 10, which means between 1, it's going to be 1 point something. Okay, and it's not going to be 10, it's going to be 9 point something. So that number in front of the decimal point, guys, it's only going to be one number, anywhere from 1 to 9. Okay, so the first step is you're going to carefully write the number. So you have 4,951,000. And if you notice, when I rewrite that number, guys, I don't put in a comma, because after putting in decimal points, moving those decimal points, doing your loop-de-loops, if you put in commas, it just kind of makes it a little bit more confusing. Okay, so I just rewrite the number and I look to make sure that it matches. Okay, so if you notice, this number doesn't have a decimal point. So when a number doesn't have a decimal point, it is at the very end. Okay, our new decimal point is going to be between 1 and 9, or I'm sorry, between 1 and 10. Okay, so if I would move this decimal point, I need to make sure there's only one number in front of the decimal point. Okay, so I'm going to put it right here, because if I cover everything else up, it is 4.9. Okay, that number is between 1 and 10. So here's my original decimal point. Here's my new decimal point. So I'm going to rewrite the number using the decimal point. So I have 4.951. I'm going to leave out those zeros. Remember, with scientific notation, you're always going to multiply by 10. Okay, now to find what the exponent is, you're going to go from decimal point to decimal point and you're going to move and count. So 1. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so my exponent's going to be 6. Now, to determine if this 6 is going to be positive or negative, I'm going to look at the original number, 4,951,000. Guys, that number is way big. Okay, it is a lot bigger than 1. So that tells me that this exponent's going to be a positive. I went from 4.951, and when I multiply it, it got bigger. So my exponent is positive. Okay. Now, let's look at the next one. It says the density of oxygen is 0.001429 grams per cubic centimeter. They want to know how this is written in scientific notation. Again, to be written in scientific notation, your base number or that first number is going to be between 1 and 10. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully write this number. So I have 0.001429. Okay. Now, this is where the original decimal point is. My new decimal point has to make the number between 1 and 10. So no, no, no. I'm going to cover up the zeros. Okay. 1.4 is between 1 and 10, so I'm good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite these numbers. So I have 1.429. Remember, with scientific notation, I'm going to multiply by 10. Okay. Now, from the original decimal point to the new, I'm going to count or I'm going to move and count. So 1, 2, 3. So my exponent is 3. Okay. Now, to determine if this exponent is going to be positive or negative, I'm going to look at this number here. Okay. This number went from 1.429, and when I multiplied, guys, it got way small. It's a lot smaller than 1. So since it's smaller than 1, my exponent is going to be negative. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and I want you to do the two problems that are on the you do. Okay, so let's see if you're right. First thing you should do is rewrite this number. So 238900. And again, you notice I didn't put a comma. And we are wanting to know how to write this in scientific notation. Okay, when there is not a decimal point, remember it's at the end. Okay, the new decimal point is going to make it, I'm moving it to where that number is going to be between 1 and 10. So I'm going to move it right here. Okay, so I'm going to cover up my zeros and I'm going to rewrite those numbers. So I have 2.389. Remember scientific notation, you multiply by 10. Okay, so from the original decimal point to the new, I'm going to count. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my exponent is going to be 5. And since we went from 2.389, when we multiplied, we got this big number. That tells me my exponent is positive. Okay, so hopefully that's what you got for your answer. Okay, let's look at the other one. The textbook is approximately 0.00165, and they want this written in scientific notation. Okay, so this already has a decimal point, but I'm going to move it to where these numbers, remember, there will be one number in front of the decimal point, okay, besides a 0. So I'm not going to move it here. I'm not going to move it here, because if I move it here, that's still 0.1. That's less than 1. So I'm going to move it here, okay? So it's going to be 1.65. I'm going to multiply it by 10. So I'm going to look at the original decimal point and the new, and I'm going to move and count. 1, 2, 3. So my exponent is 3. To know if it's positive or negative, I go from 1.65, and when I multiply, I get this itty bitty little number. So since this number is less than 1, the exponent is going to be negative. So hopefully that's what you got for your second answer. Okay. Now we're going to move on to solution to equations. Okay. Looking at this, they want to know which ordered pair represents a solution to both equations. So what they've done is each one of these lines represents an equation that they've put in Desmos. Okay. The solution, guys, it is this easy. All you do is you look to see where the two lines meet, and that's where it meets. Then you write the ordered pair. It doesn't matter what these are. You just write the ordered pair for this. Remember, the first value of that ordered pair is the x. That means you're going along the x-axis, okay? So you're going to go right or left first. So to get from here, you're going to start at 0, 0. You go over 1, 2, 3, so that's negative 3. Then you go up 1, 2, 3, and that's at positive 3. So the solution to this is negative 3, comma 3. And guys, that's all you do. Okay? So now what I want y'all to do is the you do. Okay? So let's look at this. This is not asking you for the ordered pair. They want to know on which day does it appear that Frank and Erica will have the same number of ribbons. Okay, so this to me is even easier. So what you have to do is you have to look at how it's labeled. So the x-axis is labeled days. The y-axis is labeled number of ribbons. Okay, the question is on which day. So that means you're using all of these numbers because it's labeled days. So you look to see where they cross. You come down here. You find the number that's on days, and that's your answer. So what number is this? Okay, you should have gotten 18. So you've got to be careful because sometimes they may ask for the ordered pair. Sometimes they may ask either given this number down here with days or this number here. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the back where now we're going to be talking about functions. And if you notice, there's there's four different representations. Letter A is showing us as a table. Letter B is showing us with a graph. C is showing us with ordered pairs. D is showing us with mapping. Okay. Remember, with functions, the X cannot repeat. Okay. So let's write this at the top. X cannot repeat. Okay, so let's look at the first one. It says, which one does not show a function? Okay, so first let's find the ones that are functions. Okay, and remember, you look at all the answer choices. So when you have a table, doesn't matter what these y values are. So I'm just going to cover them up. All you're doing is you're looking at the x values. So you have 1, 3, 5, and 7. Okay, if you notice, none of those repeat. So therefore, yes, it is a function. Okay, so I'm going to put a check mark. But we're looking at the one that is not a function. So it's not this one because it is. Okay. Um, this one here, the graph. Remember with the graph, you do the vertical line test. And in order for that x not to repeat, when you do the vertical line test, it's only going to hit once. It only hits once. So no matter where I do my vertical line test on this line, it is only hitting once. So yes, this is a function. But again, we're looking at the one that's not a function. Okay. Let's look at letter C. We have ordered pairs. Okay. On an ordered pair, the x value is the first one. So it doesn't matter what the second value is. Okay. This is -2, -2, -2, -2. We don't look at those. Okay. You're looking at the first number. So 2, 3, 7, and 11. You notice none of those repeat. So yes, this is a function. Now, just because those first three are functions, we're not just going to assume that letter D is not a function. Okay, we're actually going to look at it. Okay, now two things with mapping that you look at. The first thing, again, I'm going to cover up the y values because it doesn't matter what those are. Okay, first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at these numbers to see if any of those repeat. None of them repeat, so we're good. The second thing you're going to look at is how many lines leave each number. Well, if you notice on number 3, it leaves 2 lines leave. Number 5, 2 lines meet. That means if I would write this as an ordered pair, we would have 3, 2, and 3, 6. They both share that x value. So right there, this tells us it is not a function. So it is letter D. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at the one below. Okay, now this only consists of graphs and mapping. Okay, but if you notice now, they give us images. We do the same thing. You do the vertical line test, but first let's see which graph represents. So it is a function, so the x cannot repeat. So if I do the vertical line test, if you notice, it hits twice. If it hits twice, then no, it is not a function. Okay, let's look at this figure. Okay, this is a triangle, but if I do my vertical line test, okay, it hits twice. Since it hits twice, that means it shares the same x value, so therefore it is not a function. Okay, let's look at the mapping. I'm going to cover up my y values because it doesn't matter. You're looking at only the x values. You have -11, -14, -17, -20. Okay, none of those repeat. Look to see how many lines leave each one of those numbers. And if you notice, only one line leaves each one of those x's. So therefore, none of the x's repeat. So this is a function. So I'm going to put a check mark. But guys, we're looking at all of them. Okay, all the answer choices. So let's look at letter J. First, you're going to look at, do any of those x repeat? No, none of them repeat. But if you notice, 20 has 2 lines leaving. That means if I would write the ordered pair, that would be 22, 25, 22, 27, and that 22 repeats. So therefore, this is not a function. So your answer is letter H. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video. And what I want y'all to do is the 2 problems that are the you do. Okay. Okay, let's see if you're right. Let's first look at letter A, see if any of those x's repeat. -2, 0, 8, 9. They don't. Only one line from each number. So therefore, this is a function. Let's see which representation shows y as a function. Okay, we're just not going to pick it. I'm going to put a check mark because this is showing it's a function. If you look at letter B, The x's don't repeat, but 0 has 2 arrows coming from it. That means the x repeats. Okay? Let's look at the tables. I'm going to cover that up. If you notice the x values, they're all -1. That means they repeat. It is not a function. And the last one, we have -4, 0, 1, -4. Okay? These repeat, so therefore this is not a function. The only one that is a function is letter A. So hopefully you picked letter A. Okay? Let's look at the last one and see if what you got on this one. If you do the vertical line test, it only hits once. And no matter where I do my vertical line test, it only hits once. So this one is a function. And if you notice, that's what it's asking for. But guys, don't just pick it. We got to look at all of them. Okay, letter B. If I do my vertical line test, you notice it hits twice. It hits twice. That means it's sharing the x value. It's not a function. Letter C, I do the vertical line test. It hits twice. That means it's sharing the same x value. It's not a function. And the last one, guys, when it is a vertical line like this and I do my vertical line test, it is hitting all the way down. That means it is sharing the x value all the way down. It's not a function. So hopefully you picked letter A.